being in a position now where I can offer the care that I know my clients deserve and to have it be truly personalized to them is really an honor to me. And that is the most rewarding thing about, starting my own practice.
Welcome back to another episode of the Midwifery Wisdom Podcast. This week, we're joined again by co-host Augustine Colebrook as she meets with Cleveland Ohio CNM, Javonne Grey. Javonne shares her incredible experience of transitioning from hospital care to running her own home birth practice. She dives into the specifics of how she became an entrepreneur, some of the steps she took to teach herself business and to create a successful business, the importance of culturally matched care in her process, the power of a strong mindset, and so much more. This is a conversation that has important information for CNMs, CPMs, student midwives, midwives in general alike. There's something everyone at every stage can glean from this powerful conversation. Let's listen in.
Well, welcome to the Midwifery Wisdom Podcast. And I am so excited to be joined by Javonne Grey, who is a CNM who made the leap out of the hospital lake and into the ponds of home birth. And we're here to talk about how you made that happen and what's successful and what's been challenging and what you loved and what you wish. And I'll just start with one of the things that I wish. I wish that all the CNMs who are questioning their life challenges and pathway would listen to you and hear this journey. So that's what I'm going to start it out, is that you can be a guide for more CNMs to discover the joy of community-based practice. So welcome so much. Would you give us a more in-depth explanation than my little intro? Would you tell us who you are, where you are, and what you do?
Yes, thank you so much, too, for that introduction, because I thought it was great. I'm Javonne Grey from the Cleveland, Ohio area. And as you stated, I practiced in the hospital setting since 2019. And I had some experiences at two different local hospitals. I thought that maybe moving from one to the other would help me get the things that I wanted out of the practice of midwifery. And when it did not, everything wound up aligning. I made the decision to start a home birth practice. In the state of Ohio, we are required as certified nurse midwives to have a collaborating physician, which has been so hard for folks to get in this area for decades. And I was able to come to an agreement with a physician in this area, and so I started my home birth practice. So we started.
Congratulations, first of all.
Oh,
it's a really daunting process in Ohio. I know about the politics, and awesome. Well done.
Yes, thank you. So we agreed at the end of November of 2021, and we started in the beginning of 2022. So in January, I caught my first baby at home in February, and I've just been going since then.
That's amazing. Congratulations, and welcome to community-based birth. Isn't it awesome? Aren't you so glad?
You. It is. I am for a wide variety of reasons, I should say. So there were, of course, plenty of things that have to do with policy and procedure and things that are, of course, meant to keep folks safe in the hospital setting, but really wind up dehumanizing the persons who enter for care, as well as the practitioners who are providing care, on the other side of the glass type deal. Being in a position now where I can offer the care that I know my clients deserve and to have it be truly personalized to them is really an honor to me. And that is the most rewarding thing about, starting my own practice.
It's so awesome. Well, so most of our listeners are midwives or students or doulas, nurses, folks in the birth work world. And I think there are a lot of CNMs in hospital setting who kind of wish that they were doing what you're doing, but they feel like there are a lot of barriers to that. Could you first walk us through how you made that shift, how you transitioned out? Was it a psychological shift? Was it like an educational, like you needed more continuing education? Was it like, what are the barriers and how did you overcome that?
So the main shift that needed to be made was the psychological one, right? So changing my mindset surrounding the practice of midwifery, how I was practicing, and building the confidence that I needed that I could actually and effectively take care of folks in private practice was the main thing, the main hurdle that I had. And once I did that, everything else opened up. Once you make a decision to do pretty much anything and it's true, and you have at least a small amount of belief that you can do that thing, you'll be amazed at how many doors will open, because that's what happened to me. That's what's happened to me at each point. So I'm someone who grew up without a whole lot of lively leisure period, right? Like we didn't, have much in the ways of, money or anything like that. No one in my family had gone to college, other than taking a couple of community college classes. No one had completed or anything. And I decided that I was going to go and get a bachelor's degree, that I was going to go to nursing school. And I hear people all the time talking about how difficult that is, or, how hard it is to get through. And I don't know anything different, right? That's the thing that I decided to do, right? But I'll tell you that I never thought about it like this, like, oh, I'm about to do this extremely hard thing. And I think that was to my benefit. I thought of it as, this is the thing that's in between me and my getting what it is that I want, right? This is between me and my goal. And so it wasn't a matter of if I will be able to do that. It was a matter of how. And so that's how I attack or approach any goal that I have. And so from, completing high school, completing college, getting my master's, being in this world of midwifery inside the hospitals, because it is not for the weak, especially not up in the Cleveland, Ohio area. There are a lot of challenges that you face. Being a in-hospital provider that are very unique to it, and all of it could be labeled as hard. But for me, staying focused on what it is that my goals are and what my passions are, and making sure that everything is aligning with me, listening to my intuition, that is what gets me through every hurdle. So I would say, like I was saying before, the mindset was the first. And then after that, it was more mindset. So it just came up in different ways. So the first was wrapping my mind around, being an independent practitioner. Then it was, well, I know how to take care of people, right? I've been doing that thing, and, I know where my resources are. If I have questions or concerns or anything, referrals are still there, etc. Well, now when did I become a marketer, right? How do I figure that thing out? When, what's the business plan? Excuse me. How do I get over that thing? And am I qualified for this? Am I qualified for that type deal? Just constantly working on my mindset is what, keeps me in business today.
Javonne, you've just hit on such an important point. And that is, like, one distinction that we don't talk about enough is that community-based birth providers are also entrepreneurs almost 99% of the time. And so there's this whole other skill set that you have to learn on your own, because you don't go to business school. You went to midwifery school, right? Oh, it's so complicated. Did you have any mentors on this process, or did you wish you did?
So, okay. So the initial approach was to reach out to business coaches, right? To folks who teach people about business. And those were mentors, but I never I didn't initially pay for like one-on-one coaching with feedback, right? So I'm a
Yeah,
super
even
like
if you just
DIYer.
watched a YouTube video, like tell us what you learned from who helped you in this process.
Yeah, so I actually wound up purchasing a couple of different business coaching products. And the one main one was from Courtney L. Sanders. And I wound up going through a lot of her content. And honestly, I was still wound up being stuck because in my mind, it was supposed to be like a thought transplant, right? Like I learned the most when I started to try things and see what worked for me in my business. Um, and I really just started to put myself out there. The stuff that you do find on YouTube videos, if you put it into practice, if you're not afraid to do it, if you're not afraid to do a lot of it, right? Right.
Yes, I'm cheering for you. Well, just so you
Yeah.
guys know, we're gonna link your website below, and I really encourage everyone to go check it out and your social media. You have nailed the online marketing. I'm like so impressed. I'm kind of fangirling you because you guys, if anyone has taken my business classes, they know I'm like talking about blogs and video and, all the ways that you can get all the different types of content out there. And you are doing it. And your videos are beautiful and high quality and delivering really important information. And it's just such a joy to see how well you've mastered this space. So first of all, huge congratulations. And we'd
Thank
love
you
to
so much.
list those resources that you're naming below. So we'll make that in the show notes as well. What else helped you? How else did you learn this process?
So there was a fair amount of reading. I'm huge on, self-study, and so any mentorship will only make the process more streamlined for folks. And so I'm huge on, finding people who know how to do the things that I would like to learn how to do, and following them. But when I first started, I was very much like, I'm going to read these books and again, just applying things, seeing what worked and what didn't. And I found that the more I focused on myself, on my growth, the more my business was able to grow.
That's beautiful. And so true. Like, no matter where you are, like, definitely we have to focus on ourselves, like in pregnancy and midwifery, like in parenting. Like, you can't forget yourself in the process or you really are lost. So, brilliant advice.
For sure.
There's
Networking is
a
another thing that
yeah, go
I'll
ahead.
say.
Yeah, go ahead.
So sorry
Networking.
about that,
Yeah.
Bethel. Most of my clients, especially for my first year in practice, came from word of mouth. I had already been in a couple of the major hospital systems and had only given my best, so there were folks from each of those systems who were sending people to me, doctors, midwives alike. I've had doctors who, of course, have wanted to remain anonymous because it was kind of, I was doing a more tabooish type thing, but who really, were supporting me financially and things like that, in terms of like startup costs and things like that. So I had a lot of support from folks who were inside the hospital systems, as well. And then I started to reach out more to other organizations from there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And just for reference, you've been in practice a year now, right?
Yeah. So the
2
homebirth
years.
practice is, it's 2 years old now.
Yeah, 2 years. Okay. And what is the volume you're doing now?
So I'm at about 23 births. I was at 23 births for last year.
Awesome.
And I serviced 27 clients. Some folks just wanted prenatal care only. And I had last year one coaching client as well.
Awesome. That's so exciting. Well, so there's a huge focus in the business piece, right? We have to become entrepreneurs. We have to dial in our marketing and our web and SEO. And there's all these strategies to get in front of the eyes of the people that could be your clients. And that's one big piece that you have to take on when you start your own private practice. But when you leave the hospital system and you move into the home birth or community-based setting, it's a major transition, because even if you're a fairly competent, independent, free-thinking provider. The hospital, there's still a button that editorial and like respiratory therapy, and like there's always backup in the hospital. And that just does not exist in the community-based setting. Or if it does, it's a 7 to 10 minute call away, right? Like it's not instant. So tell me about how you made that transition psychologically, because I've heard feedback from CNMs that that's the biggest resistance to this leap. Tell me how that went for you.
So for me, and this is something that I talk to a lot of my CNM colleagues about, especially when, we share clients and things like that, folks who either transition from their care to mine or are doing co-care between the two of us, is that in particular was not a hurdle for me just because of how I thought about the thing, okay? Which is that what we see oftentimes is that people labor and then they give birth, right? And then they start breastfeeding and they move on with their lives, right? That's what we see happen most of the time. And so what we know is that most of the time everything goes very well in labor and birth. When it comes to, complication management, that's something that I had a lot of experience with in these high volume hospital institutionalized systems, right? So when it came to managing things like the most common postpartum hemorrhage for women, the most common for babies being, respiratory issues, when it comes to managing those things, I still have almost all of the, the first line, second line, third line treatment modalities there with me at home, right? So, ideally, nobody would ever bleed all over the place. And ideally, babies will all come out kicking and screaming. But these are things that have been managed, that I have managed myself. And most of the time, they, again, don't lead to, a hysterectomy or anything like that, right? And so for me, I go on the strength of most of the time those things don't happen. And I know how to tell when I need to dial 911, right? Like if we need to be transitioning to a higher level of care, there are multiple things that I can do on the way there that are life-saving and are the things that I would be doing if I were in the hospital.
I love that. And I just hope everyone who's listening really hears this, because this is one of the best, most well-reasoned arguments. And it's really essentially that even though we have the concept that emergency high-level skills and techniques are available in the hospital, they're actually not 24/7. There's a period where you have to call in the right people and get to the right room and get the right medication and have a team assemble. It doesn't happen in instant. And so when we're in the community-based space, being able to plan ahead and make those calls and transition as we see warning signs, actually, we might get there faster than if you've been in the hospital. Would you agree?
Yes. And then you can call ahead and be like, this is what I'm dealing with, right? Like I have access to the providers that are in the major labor and delivery wards. I call them, I say, hey, this is what is going on, so that they can start preparing while we're on our way and getting all of those things together to help this mom or baby. So I think that, again, it's most of the worst case scenarios can start brewing if you allow that in. But in the meantime, if you let that prevail over, what to be true, which is that most of the time everything goes well, then we do a disservice to a lot of moms who would most of the time just labor, have their baby, start feeding that baby, and and recover and move on with their lives. So.
Amazing how it works. Huh? We've messed with it for so many generations.
Yeah.
It's almost like we have to remind folks in the hospital, no, this works. I promise.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Javonne, I know one of the core reasons why you made this shift is the importance of culturally matched care. Tell me about your experience of advertising that in your community and then offering that in your community. What's that been like?
So it's insane, because that was the main thing that I thought of when I was getting into the hospital systems, was like, black people want the epidurals, okay? Or, the people from my community, they they only know about the hospital, etc. But when I opened doors to Three Rings Midwifery, I was getting a ton of calls of people who were like, hey, like, but you look like me, and I'm talking to you, and you seem to understand exactly what it is that I need. And, I want to be spoken to like you speak to me. They were feeling heard, they were feeling understood with just a consultation call, and a quick one, not really prepared. And at that point, I had only done anywhere from 0 to maybe 40 or 50, I think I did in my first year. And people just felt relief in knowing that this was something that was going to be provided in this area, and by just somebody who looked different, somebody who they just vibed with better. Because I'll tell you, I've had people, of course, from different cultures as well, that our ideas aligned, our values aligned, and we had a great experience together as well. But there's something about representation that really makes larger groups of people feel like they're at home. And that is so important when it comes to labor and birth. It's so important when it comes to being so vulnerable during your labor.
It's maybe the most important thing. In fact, statistics keep showing over and over that the best way to decrease poor outcomes is culturally matched care. And it's, like you said, it's also a vibe. Like, you can feel it when you sit with folks that look and sound like you and really get you. It feels so different. There's no replacement for that. And indeed, it actually saves lives. This is so exciting that you're doing this. I bet the community response has been amazing.
Yes, for sure. And honestly, a lot of it has come from the doulas, they've even been sending me clients as well, right? Because there are so many doulas in this area of all different backgrounds, and for the Black doulas, for the African American doulas in this area, who have been out here and in the hospitals and and things like that, to have a midwife of color be out. And when I came out into practice, I actually came out with 3 other midwives. So one of us, there were 3 total nurse midwives, and then 1 midwife who was on the road to CPM.
Cool. Cleveland is all so different now. It's so exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Is there a birth center opening there as well?
There is. So I'm actually the midwife who is consulting on that birth center that is going to be hopefully opening up in 2025. So
I read about that on social media, and I was like, "Ooh, who's this?" It's very exciting. Congratulations. That's so exciting. We've talked a little bit about CNMs making this leap. Your website is beautiful, and I saw that you have a number of assistants, birth assistants, that all look like they come from a medical background, it seems like. And I'm wondering, are you ever thinking about taking student midwives? Have you considered that?
So I have considered that, and I've had a couple of them reach out to me who are, not in a hurry, so to speak, to get all of their requirements fulfilled, who really are interested in out-of-hospital birth. And I say not in a hurry because, of course, my volume is not high enough for them to get, all of their requirements in within, a semester or 2, right?
And for CNMs, definitely. But for CPMs, it's actually intended to be a 3-year apprenticeship. Have you thought of taking CPM apprenticeships?
CPM. Yeah, so there was a CPM student who had reached out to me, and I had filled out all of the forms for all of the NARM forms. Yeah, the preceptorship forms, and I haven't heard back from them, so that's something I need to follow up on. But yeah, I have thought of that for sure.
Well, I'll tell you, whatever I can do to cheer that on.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know it's needed.
It's so needed. Yes, BIPOC mentors are in short supply, and the more that could join the ranks would be amazing. Although I know that you're still getting your feet wet and, testing the waters yourself. So, when and if you feel ready, I would just say, we need you. So I hope that's possible. Yeah. I mean, I could literally send you 5 students today. So whenever you're ready.
Okay. Look, I gotta get together with Norm and figure out how to make this official. And once I do that, I will reach out.
That would be amazing. Well, speaking of educational pathways, I wrote a thesis for my master's project that was about creating an interprofessional postgraduate clinical residency program for community-based birth. And it was aimed at helping folks like yourself. You have the wherewithal to get that data yourself and really make that transition. But effort to try to give more opportunities for CNMs and CMs and honestly MDs and DOs who want to move in the community-based space, because there are more and more docs opening birth centers or doing home births. I wanted to provide an interprofessional pathway for them to get community-based birth experience, because I'm sure as you've gone on, it's very different and it can be really daunting to get into that space. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I created this residency program. Yeah, go ahead. Tell us about your experience.
Well, I was just thinking about all of the physicians who I have spoken to about home birth and the way that they speak about it. It's very much like, you say what, right? Like they cannot really wrap their mind around it. There's a whole lot of like risk, that pops up in their mind. So for sure, I can see how it will be super daunting to them. For sure.
Yeah. I don't think that necessarily, we need a ton of physicians in the community-based space. I think it should be the midwifery model of care, and midwives do belong in this space. And I'm not like highly advocating for, all OBGYNs to become mini midwives. That's not the idea. But the idea is that if they already have the inspiration to move into this space, they should be oriented to the differences in space. And so lots of advocacy organizations have been like, we advocate for ACOG or ACNM or NACPM, but what we've taken the pathway at Midwifery Wisdom is that we're advocating for the location of care, not the provider type, because the hospital-based care model is very different than the community-based care model. And it really doesn't matter whether you're a CNM or a CPM or an MD. We're not doing cesareans at home. We're not giving pain medication. Like there's things we aren't doing at home, So I felt like it would be much better to really focus on the community-based like protocols and policies and like shore that up, because it feels like, I'm really glad you're doing what you're doing, which is why I'm interviewing, but it feels like there's more and more pressure to academicize and clinicalize the care across the nation, and that home birth or this body of knowledge of midwifery might be lost. Do you think that's possible?
I don't believe that it's possible. I think that just like this is the only sort of metaphor that I can think of, but what I think is that it is possible to layer over the basics, right? The midwifery care, the caring for this person, being with this person, right? It's very easy to layer over it a bunch of rhetoric and statistics and policies and procedures and, negative thoughts, right? Like, and that's what we tend to do, even in a hospital setting. I think that it's just more mechanical and more likely to happen in a hospital setting. But I think that even hospital birth could potentially be very midwifery friendly. You know what I mean? I think that what the difference is how much we layer a bunch of the unnecessary
it's a great distinction,
thoughts and things like that on top of it. So I don't think it could ever be lost, because it's very, very simple. It's basic. It's not. It's instinctual care. It's led by the person who is pregnant and or laboring, right? And that can't be lost. As long as there are laboring people, we can always follow them. We can always provide high level of care that is specific to them, right? We can always answer their particular needs. So I don't think the art of midwifery can ever be lost, but I do think it's very easy to layer on top of it a bunch of other, in my opinion, trash.
Mm. That is tweetable right
trash,
there.
but trash.
Oh, I'm high-fiving you there. Woo, yeah. And I think that, you have a very important adage there, well-meaning. And I think that's the important thing, is that we can't vilify a system or a provider type or even a care type. It's all well-meaning. All the intervention and all the technology developed in obstetrics was literally created to save someone's life. The problem is when it gets overused, right? That's where the real crisis happens. I feel like the real thing that midwives are experts at is discovering the balance of care, of being able to risk assess someone to figure out, do they belong in this setting or this setting, this provider or this provider, this intervention or that intervention. I think that's what we're experts at. Don't you agree?
Yes, I do, for sure. Right. So what I always tell my clients is I become a database of information. I become a resource from which you can, pull to make decisions about your care, right? And so, of course, I'm here to provide you with basic care if that's what you need, right? Low risk care that, and when I say basic, of course, I don't mean the experience, because the experience is A1, but, as little of it as you need, right? And then I offer interventions along the way if that's something that I think you might benefit from, right? And that's something that you choose, right? You choose if you are going to accept this or that intervention. You choose it, where you're going to have your baby. I'm just there to tell you what it is that I see, and based on my experience, what might work for you, right? And so for sure, I'm definitely one who believes that's the role that I play, because honestly, because most people just labor and just have their babies and just start living with them, right? I am sometimes just not needed, you know what I mean, right? I'm more, needed to get through emotional roadblocks and things like that might come up throughout pregnancy, labor, or birth. And I think I can be useful there too. But in the event that there is a higher level of care needed, I pride myself, right, on being one of the people who can spot that and let people know in advance, like, this is what you might be coming up against. This is what I see. Sometimes this happens, sometimes that happens. And I'm very much big on, like, as long as we can have a conversation about anything, we can move forward. And so that's what happens with my clients, is I am a resource. I'm not just a resource, I am a resource.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. Well, while we're on this theme of like the roadblocks to this pathway that you've so beautifully charted for yourself, one that is oftentimes commented on is the payer source. Would you be able to be candid with us about how you're financing your process, how you're getting paid? Is it working for you? Can you get insurance reimbursements?
So I can get insurance reimbursement in this state, but when it comes to home birth payouts, very few insurance payers were actually reimbursing for that. And so for me, I made the decision from the beginning that I would be private pay only. And so all of my clients pay out of pocket, and then the ones who have eligible insurance are then reimbursed on the back end. The people who have tended to get the most reimbursement and even have full out-of-pocket expenses reimbursed to them have been folks who have, like, I might be saying this wrong, but there's some sort of like sharing, like insurance,
like the Christian health share plans,
like like a Christian health care plan. So there are multiple that are mostly faith-based, but I've accepted so far 3 different types, and they have paid the most and up to full reimbursement for,
totally.
home birth.
Yeah, it's a brilliant insurance alternative that is somehow legal in the U.S. I'm happy that people have access to that. Yeah,
right. Totally. It's really nice. It's been really nice for them. They've been able to get all kinds of supplements and things like that as well, have labs or covered, ultrasounds covered the whole nine, and so folks have really gotten a lot of benefit from that. And then also a few of my clients have had enough in their SSA account, or of course HSA as well, but in their account to fully fund their home birth as well. So
awesome. Yeah, I think that's something that someone's really, shocked about when they come out of the hospital system, is that your copay in the hospital is the same as the entire pay in community-based, right?
Ain't that something? Ain't that something? And you would think, and people, a lot of folks will kind of gasp sometimes as a thought, because they feel like if they go have their baby in the hospital, especially for folks who haven't done it before and haven't gotten a bill when they went home, they think that, I'm just going to go there, now I'm going to have my baby, and, I don't know how much they think they're going to pay for it. But it's like here, it's like very upfront, right? Like this is right. Your responsibility type deal. And it's not like a month after you have your baby. I'm like, where is that $6,000 at? Where is that $10,000 at? Or whatever,
No. Upfront. Yeah, totally. Totally. Well, that is awesome. And again, a huge congratulations for you. And the quality of the content that you put out, and obviously the work that you've put in to create this entity. Gosh, I hope you can scale. I hope you can grow. Are you thinking about hiring other midwives? Are you imagining growing, or yes, already? I don't want to overwhelm you.
So I am. So what my focus is now on is getting better at marketing so that I can drive the amount of folks that want home birth or out of hospital
grow
care,
your followers, right? And really create an audience that's ready for you to serve their needs. Yeah, it's awesome. It's really awesome. I honestly, I'm really amazed that it's only been 2 years.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You've got an awesome presence online, and it's really inspiring. Well, let's wrap up today by talking to the student CNMs or the already practicing CNMs, and give them some real concrete steps. Like, if they were thinking, that sounds great, but I couldn't afford it, or that sounds great, but I can find a doctor to back me up, or that sounds great, but I don't even know where to start. What would you tell them? What are some first concrete steps?
The first and the most important is surrounding mindset. You have to decide that this is what you want, that you are worthy of this. This is something that's possible for you. And once you decide that, and you decide to do whatever it is that you would like to do, right? So if it's becoming a midwife, you will figure it out, right? It's like, that's what all of us are doing. We're just figuring it out. It's not necessarily the case that we have, the golden manual right in front of us, but you have to start with believing in yourself.
And there's also not one right way, right? There's many ways.
There is not. There's so many ways. And I've known midwives who have gone down one path and been like, oh, maybe that route isn't for me, and gone down another path specifically when it comes to starting the nurse midwifery route, and then switching and, deciding that maybe, the CPM route is more easier. Or direct entry, either one are a better fit for them. And so get started, and start today. So I would, if you haven't done any research into, the different programs, start doing research into different programs. I will find a mentor. Literally reach out to people who are midwives, especially if they're entrepreneurs. It's all over their profiles. It's all over the internet. Okay. Reach out to folks and see what did and didn't work for them. So those would be the main things to start off, is trying to find someone out there who has done what it is that you would like to do, deciding that this is for you. And then next, start to apply yourself, whether that be if you're going to go, direct entry, then that means you need to be out there networking. You need to be figuring out who is going to help you, with your studies, and how you can help them, right? Especially when you get out into there, because it's a lot more clear cut for the folks who are going to CNM or CM pathway, right? Because they just want the money. You pay them and they will teach you the things. You pay them and they teach you the things. But when it comes to, the CPM or the direct entry midwife pathway, you have to figure out what people want, which if you ain't got a lot of money or don't want to take the risk of loans or things like that, then go figure out what people want, give it to them, and get what you want. That is literally life. That's life as business.
Is. Ooh, speaking truth right here, dropping truth bombs. That is life. Figure it out. I'm a big fan of Marie Forleo. Do you follow her at all, Marie Forleo? Marie
No.
TV? Marie TV is like a free business coaching, online business coaching online on YouTube and everything. Marie TV. And Marie Forleo is this online business school teacher, and she wrote a book called Everything is Figure Outable. Well, it is.
But that is
like
for anybody who wants to be a midwife too. And I know that we love to be like, okay, do X, Y, and Z thing. And there are multiple different podcasts. A friend of mine and I were planning to start one as well that can kind of help people along the way. But the fact of the matter is that you're gonna come up with the same issues when it comes to midwifery, right? How many ways can you help somebody who is nauseous? Right? How many ways can you help somebody who, is having a lot of pelvic pressure, in the third trimester or even in the second trimester, whatever? There are multiple different ways to help people. You are always going to have to figure it out. It starts now, right? And so when you wrap your mind around that and know that you can do that, because that's all any of us are doing. It's not like we're like way smarter or have some sort of superpower. We believe in ourselves, we do the work that's required, and we figure the thing out, and we help other people do the same. And so that is the main thing that I will say to people. You can figure it out.
Tweetable, my friend. Yes. Well, I love that we started and are ending with mindset. And I just want to really echo what you're saying. Like, I think the difference between successful entrepreneurs and struggling entrepreneurs, successful midwives and struggling midwives is totally mindset. You basically have to decide that this is your way. And there may be roadblocks, there might be limitations, there might be impediments, but there is a way around somehow. There's someone or some way, and you just keep finding. You're really inspiring, and it's really exciting to meet you over the online and to hear your story. And I hope that you will, in addition to growing your business and scaling and doing all the things, I hope that you will step into leadership in midwifery. I hope that you will be a mentor for many.
People keep telling me that. People keep telling me that.
I can see why.
Yeah, thank you.
Javonne, we need more exactly like what you're doing. Inspiring, don't take no for an answer, being the change you wish to see in the world. It's pretty awesome.
For sure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us on the podcast today. Where can people view you online?
So on Instagram at Javonne.the.midwife. I also have a Facebook. And I want to say the best place to follow me there would be at TR Midwifery. There's a Facebook page there. You'll have my website in the show notes. And honestly, I'm callable. Call me. Right?
Okay.
I'm callable. 216-230-8840. Yeah, just call me. Just call me. Like, seriously. Just call me.
Your phone might ring off the hook now. Just now be prepared. There are so many student midwives who would love to learn from you. So thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's been a real pleasure, and I hope we get to meet in person someday.
Yes, that would be awesome. Let's make that happen.
Okay. Thanks, Javonne. Have a great day.
You too.